सुनो मेहर बाबा की खामोश बानी, इसी में है सब आशिकों की कहानी। सुनो मेहर बाबा की।
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session 12 for the Mayher Spiritual Center's presentation on the new life with Ward Parks. We have been deep diving into this very important part of Mayher Baba's life, where he and his companions for 3 years travel all over India. And it's a really important time that we are capturing here in this presentation. And so today is the great 100-day seclusion and the move from Mahabaleshwar to Hyderabad. This is covering the period from January to May of 1951. And we are very excited to be able to have Ward be able to share a lot about his research into the life and message of Baba during this particular time, as well as so much other research that he's done. So without further ado, we'd like to bring Dr. Ward Parks to share about this part of Baba's life.
Thank you very much, Susan. This is the going into the second year of the new life. We spent last session focused on a big event on the first year anniversary of the new life, that big event on 16th October 1950. And to my understanding, the new life, or Baba's practicing of it, significantly changed after that time. So I have here this timeline from the book Tales from the New Life, from the most recent edition. So I'm going to read little bits of it just to refresh us on where we are. This is from a little bit earlier sessions when Baba moved to Satara. So 14th June to 16th October 1950, Baba with his companions shifts to the south of India and takes up residence in Satara. For several weeks, from late August through mid-September, Baba moves his base of operations to Pune and then Bombay, where he stays in the apartment of Nariman and Arnavas Dadachanji. In mid-September, Baba returns to Satara. On 1st October, Baba, with the women, moves to the Aga Khan's bungalow in Mahabaleshwar. This was a sizable estate with a sizable mansion and a good meeting place. Okay, 16th October 1950. For a single day, Baba steps back into the old life during a meeting with a select group of his old life followers in Florence Hall in Mahabaleshwar. Baba gives a major message, Baba's sermon, and formulates plans for the coming month. There are about 200 old life followers who attended this meeting, the first event of that kind since the new life began. Okay, now coming more into our subject today, although we dealt with a little bit of this last time, late October 1950 through January 1951. Traveling extensively throughout India from north to south, and actually from east to west also, Baba carries out work with musts and the poor. This work includes a Langodi episode in the temple of Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar and begging nearby, famine relief in Calcutta, and service to formerly wealthy but now destitute families, with notable episodes involving a poor woman with a statue of Krishna on Diwali Day in Gudur and a former prince in Hyderabad. We reviewed that, including those stories, last time. Okay, and I'm going to carry this on a little bit further through December and January in this session, because that's actually part of the prelude to the seclusion. 13th February to 24th May 1951, Baba carries out his 100-day seclusion, which begins and ends in Florence Hall in Mahabaleshwar, but includes periods of residence and work in Guru Prasad in Pune and in Nariman and Arnavasa's apartment in Bombay. Guru Prasad comes into the picture for the very first time. Many of you will know that that's the palace of the Maharani of Baroda, which she gave over for Baba's use really for the next 2 decades until Baba dropped his body. But this was the first time it ever got used. And all of this culminated in this event from the 20th to the 30th of June 1951 at a meeting in Hyderabad with select Old Life followers. Baba announces the impending phase of Mananash. That will be the topic of our next session. And here again is maps, Google Maps, to give just a reminder of where we are. Baba went from Satara. You can see Satara there, south of Pune, a little bit east of Pune, and he went from there up to Mahabaleshwar. If you can see Mahabaleshwar in the mountains, it's up 3,000-4,000 feet, something like that. Very scenic place. That's where this meeting was on the 16th October 1950. As I say, dates and calendrics seem to have figured into Baba's work. He always set specific, definite dates for the accomplishment of certain tasks within the new life, and he tended to keep to them. Well, from there, Baba then went on this real wild tour, or intensive tour, with just those few companions who he used for this. That would be Pendu, Gustaji, Baijul, and Erich. And Chuggan was in the picture a little bit too. But the first place where they went was up to Nepal. You see Nepal here on the borders of the Himalayas. From Nepal, Baba went down to Calcutta and other places. He went to Bihar, one of the states in this area, and did a lot of famine relief work with poor people. There had been terrible floods. It was quite a disaster situation, a lot of starvation happening. So Baba appeared on the scene during that very work. In this pursuit of the same work with musts and the poor, Baba went then down to Orissa, which here is now Odisha, is how it's spelled. If you see, it's a coastal state, a little bit southwest of Calcutta and Bengal. And he went on down to Madras, which is now called Chennai. This is down pretty far south on the east coast, one of the great cities of India. I think maybe the third biggest city in India. And from there, they were just traveling and working night and day. They would get 2-3 hours of sleep and then jump on a bus and go to the next place. From there, they went to this little town of Godur. I told you that story last time about the poor woman and her parents and the statue of Krishna. And from there, they went up to Hyderabad, and then Baba returned to Mahabaleshwar. So I want to read a little bit from this very significant book, which I'm showing here, by Ramju Abdullah, Meher Baba and the God-Determined Step. We've seen some diaries by Ghani and Nilu, and other accounts in various places. But this is a very unusual book. It's the most important source on the period we're going into now. And we'll be using it for the next session, too, on the Great Meeting in Hyderabad. But what I find to be remarkable is that Ramju, one of Meher Baba's old, close disciples, who was one of the arrangement wallas, was really trying to understand who the New Life Meher Baba was. So I'm going to read little passages of this where he talks about it. At this time, Baba had completed his, tours that I just showed you, and his work with the poor and the musts. And Ramju is going to be talking more about that kind of work, which he carried on here in Bombay. They stayed at the apartment of Naraman and Arnavas Dadachanji. They had vacated the premises for the 12 days that Baba was there. As it says here, the neat, cozy flat was completely placed at Baba's disposal during the 12 days that Baba and party stayed in Bombay until they returned to Mahabaleshwar on December 6th. And the arrangement wallas had been invited, but in fact Ramju seems to be the main one who was able to come. So he says, I'm just going to be reading patches for the next couple of pages. Since Baba's New Life started on 16th October 1949, he had a few occasions to be with Baba face to face. The stray and far-flung impressions of such fleeting meetings had so far left before my mind's eye the picture of Baba to be his same old lively self, but surrounded by a rigid frame of his New Life restrictions. And I just want to take the moment to emphasize a point that I may not have stressed enough until now. There's been a lot of talk about the difficulties and severities and the extent to which Baba took his companions to task and took himself to task. But the other side to it was Baba made a really major effort to be in a good mood and to joke and to be jolly and good-spirited. That predominantly seems to have been how he was in the New Life, because the New Life required this. Now look at this, a remarkable paragraph. On the one hand, the inimitable eyes of Baba did continue to remind one, as before, of an innocent deer at one moment, and that of a full-grown tiger at the next. Have you ever seen a full-grown tiger up close? On the other hand, the thus far and no further restrictions, this is sort of all the New Life, what they couldn't do, did make one also feel that in spite of being very much alive, Baba had, so to say, placed himself within a showcase of glass all around. Okay, so this is the first chance to be with Baba continuously for several days that Ramju had had during the New Life. No relaxation or exception was allowed by Baba for anyone to make any direct or indirect reference to the old life matters and affairs of anyone, except for this curtain that remained tightly drawn between the old and the new. We were able to be with Baba as freely and intimately as we were accustomed to live with him from time to time in the old life. So it was very spontaneous and natural and fun, except you could not advert to the old life in the slightest way, right? And now we are starting to get a few old life people admitted into the work a little bit from time to time. Don't exaggerate that, though, because Arnavas and Naraman were strictly, kept away from Baba. Actually, in the same apartment, the Dadachanji apartment, Kitty and Rano and Khorshid and Sunamasi were all staying there. But whenever Baba was on the scene, they had to completely keep themselves hidden and not show their face. Thus, all the apparent artificiality in the atmosphere around Baba melted away, and the feeling of being engaged in balancing over the tightrope was no longer there. The new life, with all its pains and pleasures, was found to be as much real and human as any other life, with one difference. Now get this, viz. The new life refused point blank to take any notice of the past or make any blueprints for the future. You get that? It's now. We're living in the now. It was certainly free from all pretenses whatsoever. It was an absolutely take it or leave it business for all concerned. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to go on reading this. For all the accompanying physical rigors, mental alertness, and lack of any rosy prospects, those living with Baba in the course of stray talks amongst themselves, with the guests, that would be like Ramju would be a guest, did unconsciously display a stainless steel touch of a really carefree attitude towards the daily whys and whats of life. Do you get that? There's an iron discipline, but with that discipline is a completely carefree approach of living right in the now. As to Baba, he was the same Baba as before in almost all respects. It would not be far wrong to say that to all appearances and in all characteristics, Baba was 99% what I knew him to be for nearly 28 years, up to 7:30 p.m. on October 15th, 1949, when I parted from him that evening at Pimplegown for the last time in the old life. He's 99% the old Baba, although he's going to sort of give a different perspective on that. I do not mean thereby that Baba's personality has undergone a change of only 1%. I'm merely trying to express my sense of proportion as it is felt to me at this moment. He's talking here about the dual aspect of Baba's personality as Meher Baba cum Merwan Shariar Arani. Okay, he's talking about these two sides of Meher Baba. The Meher Baba, that role he played, the mastery, the perfect master, the soon-to-be self-declared avatar, on the one hand, and the Merwan Shariar Arani, the man. Okay, he's talking about those two interacting. In the old life, Baba used to assert his mastery as Meher Baba so much that perhaps only 1% was left over for Merwanji to place his signature as MS Arani on letters, documents, etc. In other words, the master predominated over Merwan Shariar Arani. In the new life, Baba is definitely trying to cold storage the mastery almost completely and to act in all matters as MS Arani. He seems to have succeeded in this, with the result that he continues to remain 90% the inaccessible Meher Baba and 99% Merwanji in right earnest. Now, I don't altogether understand what that means, but I think he's saying that somehow Meher Baba is there, but it's hidden and it's under a veil and it's cold storaged. But it was a part of what was there. But meanwhile, he's 99% Merwan Shariar Arani. Okay. Just 1 second as I look at what I should... Okay, now here he's going to give a little anecdote from his Ramju's time with Baba over these days in late November in the work that Baba was doing in Bombay, and where he's showing how Baba was an ordinary man, how that displayed itself. I have forgotten the context, he says, but once during these 3 days, I did definitely hear Baba refer to himself as an ordinary man. And in the footnote, he says, since then, I've heard him say that many times. It is no exaggeration to say that he plays that part freely and fearlessly, without at the same time letting his people forget for a moment that he remains whatever else he may be. In other words, they all felt there was more to it going on, but it was impossible to fathom. Whenever an occasion arose for Baba to pass a remark or comment on any particular must, as to the must spiritual achievements, he would often take care to add, I feel that to be the case, meaning thereby it was just his opinion, and that it should not necessarily be taken as a definite assertion of fact, as we are expected to do in the old life. In the old life, he would say, he's a must of this type, and he's on this plane, and you sort of had to take his word for it. But not in the new life. He would say, I feel this about this must. In one case, the discussion happened to lead to what one particular Muslim saint of Bombay had once said of Baba in the old life, to the effect that Baba was the very acme of divine perfection. And Baba immediately asked Erich to give a twist to Baba's ear, saying that he, Baba, ought not to have allowed the discussion to serve as a reminder to his old life mastership. Right, you get that? The discussion came around where they said the must had said that Mir Baba's the king of the universe, the acme of perfection. And Baba had them punish him for having let the discussion get to the point where that could come up. They weren't supposed to talk about that. Now, here's what I want to read about a little episode with Baijul. We had one episode with Baijul earlier, and this gives a more, another perspective on the interactivity that was part of the whole New Life companionship. On another occasion, Baba criticized Baijul repeatedly for Baijul's failure in taking sufficient care in making certain approaches to musts, when he and Pendu attributed, so Baba was, I think he used to be too harsh and not sensitive enough. Marwan used to tell me that was so Baba was criticizing how he would make the approach to musts. Okay, when he and Pendu, he and Pendu are retorting now, attributed Baba's profuse expressions of dissatisfaction to his old life habits of intractability and restlessness, right? So Baba's criticizing him for that, and they're saying, Baba, this is just your old life self of being, constantly restless and intractable and inflexible and all that. They're talking back to him, right? That's what Ramju is saying. Baba at once took notice of the challenging remarks, and I could not help feeling that was the time to see if Baba was only acting or really living his new way of life, right? Ramju wants to see, has he really become an ordinary man, or is he just acting it? I know that Baba is a fine actor and an adept in changing expressions, but the situation had developed so suddenly and naturally that no acting could or would have served the purpose. We were almost crowded in the doorway between the living room and the vestibule of the Ashiana. That's Arnavas and Naraman's apartment in Bombay, with our respective faces only a few inches away from each other. It was during those few minutes that I saw the new Baba. Even if Padre, with all his passion to catch Baba's facial expressions in his camera, Badri was a really talented photographer, so he's alluding to that. We're ready at that moment for a snapshot. I doubt if he could have caught all the subtle transformation that came so serenely, so sweetly, and so swiftly over Baba's features. Okay, Baba's been challenged. They're saying, you're just being intractable and inflexible and hammering away because you're in the habit of doing that. You can't control your temper. That's what they've told him. The way that he gave expression to his protests was characterized by as much firmness as gentleness. What he actually said was something to this effect. I am always trying not to lose my temper, but when I do so, I make no secret of it. You must therefore believe me now when I say that Baijul did fail in doing all that was necessary, in which all could have been done in this case. So you see, he's trying to express how I know that I have lose my temper, and when I do, I say so, but I really do feel Baijul was at fault in this case. So this is trying to illustrate what is new about Meher Baba in a human sense. I don't know of any other account of the new life where a disciple tries to explore this. I mean, with all human sensitivity, to really give a feeling about what Meher Baba was like and what was different about him. So this is a treasure mine, this particular booklet. It's quite unique. Okay, now just stopping for a second. I'm getting a kind of a whistling in my ear. It's fine by me, but is the recording okay? It's sort of, might just be in my, if it's the headphone, I don't care. I just want to make sure it's not getting into the, I'm getting some feedback that's not getting into the recording. No, I don't. Okay. I think it's just this, and I twisted it and stopped doing it. Okay. Okay. Now, I want to read a little more from Ramju, where he gives an account of what Baba's work with the musts was like at this time. I've mentioned in the past that during the first 8 months, say, 8 to 10 months of the new life, as best I can see, Baba really didn't work with musts. I can't think of any accounts of his having contacts with musts. But right at the very end of his stay in Delhi, he did. He traveled for about a week or so and went up to Rishikesh and started working with musts. When he went down to Satara, musts were a regular part of what he did. They stayed in the bungalow with the men, and Baba was working with them all the time. But now this particular phase was with poor people and musts. And what Ramju wants to try to bring out is how this is not the same as Baba's old life work with the musts and poors. Okay, as explained by Baba, both the aspects of his present work, i.e., contacts with the musts and contacts with the poor, are entirely different from his activities in the past of a similar nature. Formerly, this will be in the old life, none knew how he actually established the contacts with the musts and what transpired on those occasions, because such meetings were invariably held out of sight of others, and they were never fully described or explained by Baba. All right, Baba went into a room and no one saw it. This time, it was clearly as an ordinary man, with all possible humility and diffidence. The Baba was out to seek the blessings and good wishes of anyone who was supposed to be spiritually advanced or enlightened. Remember how he had done that at the Kumbh Mela with all these sadhus? He was bowing down to them. Previously, in the course of his poor work, although Baba always preferred the really needy and poor to be served first, the approach was generally based on people who appeared to be poor or under visibly straitened circumstances. During the present Must and Poor Work tour, Baba was particularly keen to contact people in hopeless economic plights, irrespective of appearances. So they really went to a lot of effort with poor people to find really genuinely needy people. Okay, I'm just going to take a little break here as I jump to the next. Yeah. Now there was a moment during this work. It happened twice actually. Here in Bombay, and then 2 months later, on his after the conclusion of his Hyderabad trip, Baba gave money to 4 of the needy old life people. He thought, he was saying, well, I should not neglect those who are close to me. So he had them brought, and he bowed at their feet, washed their feet, and gave them, I think, packets of 1,000 rupees. These are, longtime followers. And Datu Mehendarge was one of them. He was Adi's secretary, the one responsible for a lot of these circulars, getting these circulars out. Waman Padale, I remember him when I first moved into the trust office. He was still there. His brother Baram. And Baba would say, this is not charity, and this money isn't even mine. It is a gift to you from loving hearts, given to you without any obligation. You should accept it as a gift of love. They would always say something just like that. When you see Baba's photo, I don't know what to say, describe the way that Baba looks. Yeah, in fact, this is what is said. I'll read this. This is neither charity nor favor done by me. The money is also not mine. It is part of the amount given to me by loving hearts to be used for helping the needy. I consider you to be in need of help, and I give this without any obligation upon you of any kind. And Ramju says these are Baba's old lovers who he's doing this to. The recipients did obey Baba silently, but their tearful eyes, twitching lips, and general flinching and fumbling was as good as screaming and squealing, and it stunned the in other words, they were really quite overpowered by Baba having done this for them. Another little break as I come to the his accounts of work with musts. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Okay. Okay, and so here Ramju gives a little description of work with the musts. And again, I'd like to read this because it's hard to know exactly what to say about this work because we don't really know what was going on. But here he describes it, and you can see that it was a different deal than his old life work with musts, where he seems to have been working with them up on their own planes of consciousness, where here he doesn't look like he was. Okay. Ramju says, during this work, I was given the duty of becoming the mouthpiece of Baba in requesting the musts for the blessing and good wishes desired by Baba. I was to make the request in the case of those who are known to be Muslims and to remain a silent spectator when those contacted happened or appeared to be other than Muslims. In my absence on the 29th, okay, and then Adi took it over, I will therefore restrict myself only to general description, okay. Baba maintained a uniform method of approach to all those whom he contacted, to the leaders and the wayfarers in the path, as well as to those who were believed by others to be spiritually advanced and enlightened. That approach was essentially one of great humility and submission. See, I'm not sure Baba was that way in the old life, because here he was God in human form, working with divine children. I mean, I'm sure he showed signs of himself, but here it's just with total humility and of submission. First of all, Baba used to be very careful and avoided causing the least disturbance or annoyance to the one who approached. One of the Firtamas, i.e. those who keep roaming from place to place without sticking to any particular place or locality. Okay, he's describing a must who was sound asleep, and Baba said, I don't want to wake him, we'll come back later. Once at Bandra, a must who puts up in a very simple but neat little hut over a hill overlooking the sea, granted Baba's prayer for the asking. Baba would say, pray for the work be done, be successful. But then he added, kabi aya kare, if I'm reading that right. Kabi aya kare. Be visiting once in a while. You see, he asked Baba to visit once in a while, and Baba couldn't say yes to that. He couldn't promise to come back, right? Baba took these things really seriously. Baba at once stopped. He got the prayer repeated with the statement that he would like to go now, and waited till he got a clear and unconditional assent of the must, right? Unless and until Baba could touch his forehead upon the feet of the must and get an assent to his request from him, the contact was not supposed to be complete. It was while he placed his forehead on their feet that I generally used to repeat the prayer, oh God, I'm not going to do this well, Apdua Karen ke inka ruhani kam ho jai, meaning thereby, you will kindly pray that his, Baba's spiritual work, is being carried out. They would always say something like that. Pray for it. The response used to be received in various ways and words. The Salik, discerning type, would say, Inshallah ho jaiga, that is, God willing that will be completed. Some would merely nod their heads. Some boldly asserted, Ho jaiga, that shall be done. One queer type at first did a lot of fencing by asking how he could dare interfere with the will of God and the work of the masters. How could he pray for something? How can I mess with the work of the perfect masters? But when assured that all that was needed from him was his own blessings, he suddenly went into an ecstasy and began to give sharp raps on the back of Baba 4 or 5 times, saying that the work shall be carried out. In one case, a must insisted upon receiving rupees 3 and 4 annas. Baba actually would give money to the musts before he would say anything one way or the other. When Baba placed the amount in his hands, an anna, that's a tiny little, like a penny or a nickel, slipped through his fingers. The must recounted and found out that 1 anna was short. And when the desired amount was completed, only then did he give a twist of assent to his chin. I could not help remarking to Baba that the fellow was very careful in collecting his fees, and Baba smiled broadly. So these musts were all sorts of places, rich and poor, rural, big cities. Some are as clean as new pins or lying about in dirt and filth, attended to by others or not, some gentle, nice description of the variety of the different kinds of musts. And I want to read one little last must count, and then we'll move on to other topics. This was, I will for the present top of the case of one who paid back Baba in his own coin. I would call him the Patiwala Baba, a short, robust, full-bearded Arab or Pathan type of a Muslim Patiwala, coolie. We had to go for him twice, once in the morning and the second time at night. He would not let people collect around him. So the second time, Baba decided to approach him with only myself by his side. In the sweetest, most persuasive tones that I could adopt, I began to plead to him that we did not mean to disturb him, harass him, ask any boons, and pointing out to Baba, I said that he only wished to pay his respects. At last, the lion roared, and I love this. With a gesture toward Baba, he said something to this effect: "He may be God, he may be Mohammed, but why not leave me alone?" He sort of recognized him, and he said, "Why doesn't he leave me alone?" Baba quietly touched the old man's feet from a distance and beat an immediate retreat, asking me to leave him alone. "He is a fine fellow," repeated Baba more than once. I love that story. He may be Mohammed, but why doesn't he get out of here and leave me alone? Okay, so this is, I think, a really nice account of what Baba was like. The only account like this I've found anywhere. And also a description of what this kind of work was like. You see, Baba would go up to the musts and just bow down at them, press his feet, and ask for their blessings. That was all he did. Completely different kind of work. And with the poor, as we went over last time, Baba actually went not just these elaborate stories with these big families of last time, but all kinds of poor people. Baba would give them money and never give any indication of who he was, but with the statement, "These are gifts from loving hearts. Please, there's no obligation, accept it as a gift of love." Okay, in December, Baba got back to Mahabaleshwar, and had a nice month there. There are a lot of occasions where Mera and Mani and the women could have times with him. They had brought with them this pony, Begum, and they would go long walks in this beautiful trails and landscapes. And like the Begum was like a dog, would scamper along with them. At one place, they were going through a forest, and Begum got frightened because there are tigers there, and sort of pushed in between Baba and Mera to get protected. When they'd get to the Florence Hall, she would come right inside, and until she was greeted by Baba, she would stand there and then go scampering off. So lovely moments. The women actually, to make a little bit of money, started preparing a little bit of ghee and selling a little bit of ghee. So the ghee story comes back into it. At the end of December, the group of young singers and Baba lovers from Pune got invited up to sing before Baba. This would be Madhusudan and his party. Now, Indians would know very well who this is. Maybe some Westerners would not, but Madhusudan is, without any question, the leading songwriter that the Baba world has had until this time. Masterpiece after masterpiece. Some of you will know the arti. Arati swikaro meheramana. That's his arti. And gate chalo. He wrote that. And many, many others. He had a real great talent. And he had a whole party. One of these closest associates is still living and still sings, Pratap Ahir. He was just a young boy of 14 at the time. And there were several others. They had heard of Baba just before the beginning of the new life. I think I might have related that story. And now they had a chance to come and sing before Baba at Florence Hall. But even though they had been educated and trained by people like Dr. Ghani, Ghani himself couldn't come because he was, old life. Actually, at that meeting, you had to either be a servant companion, arrangement wala, or old life. There was no Plan 1B or Plan 1C or Plan 3. They were all abolished. So Ghani and Adi and others like that opted for old life. So they came up to sing before Baba, and wonderful sessions. They went on for hours. They were really in prime of songwriting and enthusiasm. And a problem that they had in their minds was that all their songs were ecstatic, loving devotional songs to Baba, but Baba's in the new life, so they couldn't sing to him. So Baba solved the problem this way. He put a picture of himself from the old life and said, don't sing to me, sing to the old life, Meher Baba, but sing your hearts out. So they did, and it was a great event that occurred there. So these are turned out to be important players in the subsequent decades. Madhusudan and party sang at many of the events, the East-West Gathering, the 69 Darshan. At Baba's Samadhi, a huge number of the songs that are sung there are his. So this was a critical contact. Darn, I'm forgetting. I can't believe I'm forgetting the man's name. The great disciple. Here, I have to. Oh, darn. Shirt stay. Oh, gotta. Here, I have to find out his name because it's. Sorry. For the women, Mahabaleshwar. Oh yeah, Coxeb, how could I forget? Coxeb, one of Baba's very old Muslim disciples and a very accomplished poet, had written a ghazal which he had asked Madhusudan and Pratapahira Party to sing before Baba, which they could do if they didn't divulge who wrote it. And Ghani did the same thing. But practically the very eve of the departure of Madhusudan from Pune, Coxeb died, actually. So when they sang it, I'll read this from Bau's book. The music resumed with Madhusudan singing the ghazal Coxeb wrote right before he died. Baba suddenly stopped everyone. Everyone became profoundly still as Baba's mood changed to one that seemed pensive and far away. He moved his hands over his face and gestured, "He has come to me." From this gesture, everyone knew that Ghani was referring to Coxeb. So this is one of, remember at the very beginning of the New Life, there was this verbal dueling between Ghani and Coxeb. Some of you might have seen that session, where Ghani lets it rip against Baba, and Coxeb lets it rip against Ghani. It's great fun. So these are old friends and highly accomplished Urdu poets. So they also sang this ghazal by Ghani. What a sunny day it was, what a dread night it is now. I hope God's hand is on the wheel of my fate. I've heard this given in Urdu, and it's much more beautiful than these lines really express. After the group sang a few lines of the ghazal, Baba told them to stop. Laughing, he gestured, Mota Doka, meaning big head, which was his nickname for Ghani. So these two guys got to get introduced into the show after all. This is a picture of Florence Hall where all of this happened. Okay, during the next month, here are some more. Here's a picture of Baba with Begum, you can see. And here he is on the veranda to Florence Hall. Beautiful place it was. Baba, I'm going to just mention that Baba did a trip to Hyderabad to locate bungalows where he could stay because he already planned to move there. And in the course of it, he did a lot of must work and was very pleased with it. Later in the month, he went to Bombay and did a lot of must work there. And he seemed to indicate that this was crucial to the 100-day seclusion. I'll be reading the announcement of that in a second. But in the meantime, he gave Ghani a last chance to be with him. And I'll read this sort of goofy poetry that Baba sent to him. He said, "If you are well, if you feel swell, if you have not gone mad, or don't say you are sad, have no material loss from servant or boss, or talk of old life or child or wife." In other words, you can't talk about your old life, but entertain me with jokes and poetry. Will pay both fares, but won't listen to your cares. In other words, Baba will pay for his trip from Pune to Mahabaleshwar and back. Then come for 8 days, so Meher Baba says. Don't give me pain by asking for material gain. Remember, Ghani was the subject of the Boja Fund, where Baba had come up with 35,000 rupees for him. He was always scraping by to support his wife and family. Talk of his spiritual benefit will give you gobar, that's cow dung, and shit. In new life, no responsibility, of reward, no possibility. So Ghani wrote back, "Received your loving letter. I feel awfully better. Is India getting dry? It never looked to me wetter. 1,000 thoughts and whatnot. It almost looked almost a boycott. 12 months, no ink pot. I could not get the upshot. And for the last 12 months, there's been no correspondence back and forth. And I haven't known what's happening. And Jal with dates noting, that would be his brother Jal, and Gadakar drowned in doting, and Papa seemingly bloating, and Ramju meaningly gloating. The atmosphere was pretty sure, could not very long endure. De facto verdict for a cure, could not ignore my stand de jure. Accepting all your orders will come for dates and numbers. On mind, no madness, murder. Be damned the cares and thunders, hoping there are no blunders. Forever I remain yours, Abdul Ghani." And then Baba wrote back. You can see this is just goofy poetry they're sending me. They had done this for so many years. After carefully your letter noting, I feel like going boating. If any of my orders you break, your body on the Ganges be floating. So Ghani came and spent 8 days with Baba, and he did come to the Hyderabad meeting we'll be talking about, but this was really his last time to be with Baba because he died in August of the following year. So both Coxseb and Ghani died within 8 months of each other. Now we come to this 100-day seclusion, one of the most important of Baba's life. And here's the circular in which he announced it, 28th December 1950. This is the original, typed, as you can see. Baba desires to go into seclusion for about 100 days from 13th February 1951 at Mahabaleshwar in the Aga Khan bungalow compound. This seclusion of Baba will be unique of its kind and will concern his new life oath and his desired ultimate achievement. It will be a partial seclusion, and unlike the old life seclusions, Baba does not desire to confine himself in a small room for the entire day. He usually was physically confined in the past, but this will be different that way. Baba thinks that he will either emerge victorious in attainment of his new life living, or will die in the attempt. February 12th is Baba's birthday, but during the new life he will not have it celebrated, etc. And then he'll do a last tour, must tours, which I've already mentioned. So Baba went into this, by the way, here's a picture of Baba bowing down to some of his old life followers who were in need. You can see what he looks like when he's doing that, giving them 1,000 rupees, and such a beautiful look on his face. Some of them must work here. Okay, just a minute. I'm going to find the right place. Oops, I went past it. Sorry. So Baba had Padre construct a hut within Florence Hall, a sort of a thatched hut with a thatched roof and bamboo sidings. And he did a lot of his seclusion work there. And here he gives a description of what he's going to do. I wish we knew more of what this was about. But 13th to 28th February, Baba spent days in the cabin, the hut and the compound at Mahabaleshwar, to adjust seclusion activities. 1st to 5th March, the most intensive phase of the seclusion, when Baba worked most in the hut till very late hours of nights, alone and in complete darkness for hours together, and then working in the sudden glare of bright light for that many more hours. He got these Petromax lanterns, so this brilliant, glaring light, alternation between complete darkness and complete not light. I've never heard of such a thing any other time in Baba's life. What was that about? It makes you think of natural darkness and natural light, or something symbolic obviously was going on. Of course, Baba never explained it. 6th to 9th March, it culminated in Baba's fasting entirely in water, confining himself all the time in the cabin and hut. 10th to 12th March, Baba fasted on liquid food, confining himself all the time in the cabin and hut. So over this period, he was physically secluded. 13th to 24th March, Baba resumed his routine of seclusion, taking 1 meal a day and only 1 hour's work during the nights in the hut, half an hour in light and half an hour in darkness. And then from the 25th to the 60th, Baba actually moved about. He went to Pune. I'll get to that in a moment. But during this period also, Baba was, let me say that again. During this period also, Baba would have sessions with the men where they would read from scripture and mystical texts from the different great religions. We've seen some of that before. And the women could listen in from behind a curtain. So they were present but invisible during this time. Kitty and Rano had been allowed to come. And here's an interesting thing that Kitty said. Yeah, every evening the servant companions would join Baba in prayers. The women, including Rano, Kitty, and Naja. So Naja was still there. She was an old life disciple. Could see Baba silhouetted through a glass panel door, wearing his long white sadra and standing up, his hands folded in prayer, facing a bare wall. So here's what Kitty comments about it. Kitty later wrote, I can recall Baba's weak physical condition and supreme state of helplessness during the 100-day seclusion. Yet every evening during the period, the companions were called to Baba for a recitation of evening prayers in Marathi, Urdu, and English. This period was my first experience of seeing Baba so helpless and in such great physical pain. In this new life phase, when Baba emphasized his purely human aspect with all its limitations, it was difficult at times to remember that Baba was also eternal bliss. And she goes on to interpret this in a Christian sense as the role that the Christ has to take on. I'll just mention briefly because it had a big effect on me. And Erich told the story that one time in the height of intensity of this seclusion, and this was a devastating seclusion on Baba. You know, we just hear Baba went into seclusion, but Baba would really come out of it with everything taken out of him. And he said Baba came after a day of this work, and he was utterly exhausted. And he said to Erich, tell me a story. I need some nice story to relieve my mind. And Erich had just been cleaning the room and wasn't at all ready for this. But Baba obviously wanted a grand story. And he told the story of the building of the Taj Mahal, not the story that's known to history, but a different story. And if there were time, I would love to just spend an hour just repeating it. I wrote a play on it. We put it on at Mehrabad and planning to publish it. In fact, it's a truly, truly beautiful love story that stands behind the building of the Taj Mahal. Whether it really happened or not, who knows? But who cares? Baba absolutely loved the story. And I got Erich to tell this to me personally because I was planning to write it up as a play. And he told the best rendering of it I've ever heard. And at the end, Erich said, if Baba hadn't been so exhausted from seclusion, he would have given me an embrace. Even a companion in the new life. So, and I remember Merwan describing what Baba looked like when he came out of this whole period. And he said he was so thin and so exhausted, he looked like a plucked chicken. That's what he said. They were shocked. Merwan got to see him for the first time, or I think he had seen him in passing in the previous summer, but they got to spend a little more time with Baba during this period. Baba gave some further circulars that are really quite important. So I do want to read these. Let's see. Take a second here. $23. No, I need $25. Okay, so this is circular 25 and then an addendum added to it. I want to read these because these are major statements. It was at this time that Baba started to indicate that he was going to have to take a God-determined step. That came out of this 100-day seclusion. He didn't know what it was, but he felt he was going to be compelled to take it. So this is circular number 25, a statement sent out to everyone. I'm trying to think, to feel, and to act truthfully and honestly in the new life which I have adopted. As I have to be honest to my new life, I am totally indifferent as to what the servants, the arrangement wallahs, and the old life disciples and devotees, and all those directly and indirectly connected with me, even those who are not connected with me, think and feel about it. I am not concerned whether they or others have rightly understood it or not. And let me just say here, in previous old life periods, Baba would pay attention to what people thought about what he was doing, because in ways that might interfere with his work. For example, if there was someone in the community or the city whose assistance he would need, he would take care that that person was approached properly, etc., etc., etc. But Baba was starting to say, nobody can help me in this. It's impossible for anyone to affect what I have to do. Okay, out of the 100-day seclusion that began on 13th February 1951, the main work was achieved during the first 40 days, which were very crucial and very important. We've already gone over those a little bit. Without the help of God, I could not have gone through this ordeal successfully, considering my usual changing temperament and the physical and mental strain that I suffered during this period. It was as if God wanted to prove his help to me by giving me suffering as well as the strength to endure it. I also feel that the prayers and invocations dictated by me and offered on my behalf by the servants have been accepted by God. The remaining 60 days are not very difficult for me to live through. With God's help, I can adjust the activities and place of work, etc., etc. He's expressed thanks to people who have stuck with him through all of that. Let me see. Okay, my 100-day seclusion is likely to be accomplished to my entire satisfaction, and that I feel God also will be entirely satisfied with it. I have, God knows, the honest conviction that during the period between 10th June and 30th June 1951, God will, out of his infinite wisdom and grace, make me take a step which will bring about an extraordinary revolutionary change in my life and in the lives of the servants, the arrangement wallahs, and the old life disciples and devotees, and all those directly and indirectly connected with me. This change will take place in accordance with what and how God wills it. I feel I will not be able in any way to avoid the step that God has ordained for me and the life that God will make me live. I also feel that I do not know how, what, or how much the effect of it all will be on me or on others. And then 2 weeks later, Baba gave an elucidation of this, which I also want to read. These are important statements. I feel entirely satisfied with the statement I have made. We just read that. Because I have firm conviction that God is so determined that I shall certainly be made to take the irrevocable step. With all the conviction that I have about it, I clearly want you to know that I am still totally unaware about the nature of the step that I shall be made to take. He doesn't know what it is. To put it more plainly, I want you all to understand that today I cannot even guess what step God has ordained for me. This step might plunge me into a life older than the old life, or newer than the new life, or into a life below these lives, or into a life above both these lives. I feel certain that by the beginning of the last week of June 1951, God will definitely determine within me the nature of the step that I shall have to take. No sooner the step is disclosed to me during the last week of June, and that in fact happened, then I shall declare it to you all. Just to spoil the story by spilling the beans in advance, it's Mananash. Before I finally put into execution the irrevocable step on 16th October 1951. So notice dates. 16th October, he began the new life. 16th October, he stepped out of the new life for that meeting. And 16th October, he's going to start this irrevocable step, which, as I have said in my statement, will bring an extraordinarily revolutionary change in my life and in the lives of those who are directly and indirectly connected with me. I shall have to prepare the ground for the same from July till the 16th of October 1951. Preparations for me and for all those connected with me will have to be made to my entire satisfaction, etc., etc. I somehow feel that ever since I set out for the new life, there have been various occasions when I and those connected with me have had to overcome many causes of interference with my new life. This time I shall not be doing anything which will not give me entire satisfaction with what I settle by way of preparation for 16th October 1951. There is no more scope for screw-ups, right? In fact, as Madanash gets going, Baba made it clear it could be disastrous, any messing up by any of the people with him. I am also confident that by God's help and with his will, the result of this irrevocable step, which I shall come to know and declare in June 1951, which I shall put into execution by 16th October 1951, will fructify by 16th February 1952. It's the end of the new life. So he's scoped out the remaining period, his program for the rest of the new life. He's not telling us that yet, though. All this has been put before you plainly and clearly, in order that my statement may remove confusion, if any, and give confidence, if none, to you all. Nonetheless, I feel the result of this irrevocable step that God will bestow in his own ways will in no way depend upon whether one was confused or confident. In other words, what you understand about this isn't going to affect its effectiveness. The extraordinary that has to happen must happen by God's will. So you can see that this was issued on the 1st of May 1951. And I'm just going to go quickly over the last part of this period, because the most important part of the new life, of the 100-day seclusion, was the opening part. Baba actually inaugurated it with this oath, which I'm going to read. And these oaths, as we have seen, keep cropping up at critical points and junctures during the new life. O God Most High, grant guidance to Baba and lift up his heart with your love. O Christ, the everlasting truth, that he may live the new life with faithfulness to the end. This is one of the rare cases where someone like Christ comes into these. May the work of these 100 days of seclusion be fulfilled to Baba's entire satisfaction, and may the desire of his heart come to pass, and the aim of the new life be achieved. Once again, Baba is asking God to help achieve the purposes of the new life. He always did ask for this in the new life. Grant that his body be sound and healthy during his seclusion, and give him strength to bear whatever suffering may befall him. Grant, O most merciful God, that these desires of Baba be fulfilled through the grace of thy Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Was that someone knocking at the door, by the way? I thought I might have heard. I don't want this to screw up this time. Was that somebody?
I don't think so.
I thought I heard something. I'm kind of concerned. They're supposed to deliver today, and if they don't, it will be trouble. No? Nothing? Okay. Let me see, we're on page 541. So that was the prayer that Baba gave at the inauguration of the 100-day seclusion in February. And here's a picture of him on that night, the night before the seclusion began. They wound up spending a part of time in the last 60 days in Pune. Baba did all kinds of must work and visited various sacred sites. But I guess I'll conclude with this. Baba sent a message to Adi that he wanted him to find a nice bungalow that he could stay in. And Adi and others searched all over the place, and they did find one, but it was close to a tannery, and tanneries smell horrible. So they were not satisfied with it. There was a lot more that went on. Somebody reneged on a deal that they had made and everything. But Papa Jesawala, Adi, Gadakar, Marwan Jesawala, a lot of the close ones in Baba were really trying to find a suitable place. And I remember Marwan telling the story that he was walking through a part of Pune, and suddenly he noticed a beautiful palatial bungalow behind a fence. And he knocked on the gate, but nobody was there, so he climbed the fence, went in, and the guard there thought he was a thief and hurled him out of the place. It looked like a beautiful palatial spot. Well, at the very same time, Gadakar had asked a friend of his if there was any place that he knew of where Baba could stay, and the friend said, get in touch with the Maharani of Baroda. She was and her husband fabulously wealthy people with palaces. You should see their palace in Baroda. It looks like Buckingham Palace in London. It makes Buckingham Palace look small. But they got in touch with her, and she was delighted to make it available for Baba's use. And this is the beginning of the career of Guru Prasad in Baba's life story. So Baba, when he went to Pune with the women traveling with him, said he wanted to take them to their new place. And Mera, who had grown up in Pune, was saying, ooh, this is a very posh neighborhood. And they drove into this gorgeous palace. So that's where Baba did stay for that remainder, that part of the 100-day seclusion. And when he came out of it at the end, he did have a meeting at which a number of people were invited to meet him, some of them for the first time during the new life. And by this time, Baba had put plans in motion for a relocation from Mahabaleshwar to Hyderabad. I don't hear this mentioned, but I noticed that end of May we're coming into the monsoon time, and Mahabaleshwar is not the place to be for that. But they had found in January, when Baba went there doing must work also, some very excellent places. And they rented a lovely spot to have their meeting at. It's in Jubilee Hills. I think some of the Baba lovers there know where this place was. And so then Baba shifted locations to Hyderabad, which is in central, more on the eastern side. In those days it was in Andhra. Now there's a new state, Telangana, that it's a part of. It's one of the great cities of India. It's maybe 6th or 7th largest city in India. Baba liked the city a great deal, and so in June he shifted from Mahabaleshwar, having completed his 100 days seclusion, preparing for a meeting to which a select group of, I think, 75 old life disciples were going to be invited. So that's going to be the subject of the next session. So we've covered really here from December in Mahabaleshwar up until the end of May. Most of that time, the headquarters for the women and for the disciples not accompanying Baba was Mahabaleshwar, Florence Hall. They had rented it for this time. Although Baba, was traveling to other places for various spells of time. But with this move to Hyderabad, the Mahabaleshwar drops out of the New Life story. And now Hyderabad is going to be the main scene of action for the next 3 or 4 months. And now we're going to start to come into the final year or 8 months of the new life where it really reaches its culmination. So, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Well, thank you so much with this session as well. When we talk about this time where Baba also steps out of the new life, or
Yeah.
also attends to those that are in the old life, or that he knew in the old life, what are some things that really struck you as particularly special?
Well, during that 4-hour period where he stepped into the old life again, he actually gave a discourse, that great sermon, which is one of the supreme messages of his advent, in my opinion. And he had not done that during the entirety of the new life. But in the meeting that we're coming into now, we'll see it next time, Baba did give another major discourse. There are two major messages or discourses, apart from messages about the new life, that he would talk about that. But he wouldn't talk about spirituality or spiritual truth. Spirituality was forbidden in the new life, right? But the two occasions were in that Mahabaleshwar meeting and in that end of June meeting in Hyderabad, those two. We'll be going over that message next time closely. A really important message. But it looks to me like this whole period was actually integrated. I mean, the work with the musts and the poor, Baba a number of times hinted were feeding directly into his 100-day seclusion. And his 100-day seclusion, as we just saw, culminated in his declaration of a God-determined step, whose nature he didn't know, but he was sure he would be compelled by God to do. And that step was Mananash. So this whole last year looks to me like it was actually well planned. I don't know if I should say that. Maybe God made the plan, but Mayor Baba followed it. Let's put it that way.
So,
But again, with those things, it sort of seems, who else could have done this? I mean, his companions couldn't have done this. Could they have done the 100-day seclusion with alternating between brilliant light and total darkness? I mean, what would that mean? I mean, it's sort of interesting. I suppose I could sit and say, this is dark, this is light. But, I mean, it would be meaningless. Only Baba could do that. So it looks like this part of the new life, he was doing it himself in his own unique and inimitable way.
you mentioned Mananash, and for many Baba lovers may have heard of the word Mananash or know a lot about that period and what that word means. For those that may not know what Mananash means, would you mind giving a little sneak peek into, I know you'll be talking about it in a couple sessions, but
that'll be the dominant theme from now on in, actually. Mana is mind, and Nash is annihilation. It's annihilation of the mind. So he was going to take on the annihilation of his own mind. Whatever on earth that means. So that we'll go. He gives a discourse on that topic because he was doing so as an ordinary man. In fact, he continued to say that he was an ordinary man right up to the end of the Mananash period at the end of January. If I had to give a single date for the end of Mananash and the end of New Life, I would say January 31st, 1952. Although he gave the date the 16th. Things kind of continued in certain ways into the 16th. But January 31st was a decisive moment. And when he stepped out of seclusion the next day, it looks like the Mananash seclusion was over. See dates, January 31st, October 16th. Baba really scheduled things and took it seriously. In the same way that he took conditions seriously and he took oaths and promises seriously. This is one thing I've really come to see more and more clearly from my years of studying Baba's life. When we get to be with him next time, don't make promises lightly. Baba
Right.
hears them and cares about them. That's something I've concluded.
I feel the same way. Ford, thank you so much. This has been just as the other sessions have been, just very interesting, and also in a way, can I even say like entertaining? Not that, it should be or shouldn't be, but it feels like we're really just getting his darshan, like we're right there, just seeing all this
I feel that way in studying, diving into Baba's life. You really do get his darshan. I agree. I agree.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a wonderful benefit. Yeah.
Well, you're doing a
Isn't it-
wonderful service to all of us to be able to also take this deep dive together, and what we can also expect from the next session, the meeting at Hyderabad. Can you give us some information about what we can expect then?
The session will really be concentrated on that 10-day period, actually. So it'll be circumscribed. And we'll be reviewing a lot of what Baba said and what Baba indicated he had to achieve through Mananash. That was, in fact, one morning he said, one day he said to them, "This morning at 3:30, God revealed to me the God-determined step, what it was going to be." And they had been invited, the 75 who came, as witnesses to his declaration of Mananash. And when he talked about Mananash then, and really throughout the until that period came to a close, Baba really seemed to take it seriously that he could fail and that he could physically die, and that it was very likely that that would happen. And it was fraught with risks and dire consequences. And it was absolutely critical that this work should be accomplished successfully, critical in every way imaginable. So, and I believe it. I mean, like in the first year of the new life, the companions could screw up, and Baba didn't like it, and he felt he was compromising his oath, and he would take them to task and come up with plans, etc., etc., etc. Well, there's no scope for that now. There's no room for mess-ups. So there's a high seriousness that comes into play more and more now. When Mananash starts, it's in deadly earnest, with no scope for mess-ups at all.
Such incredibly high standards
Yeah.
that it's amazing to even think about, and that
Yeah.
Baba himself was concerned that he might not even make it, but the seriousness with which he took that charge.
Right. He might die. He
Yeah.
might die. He said that.
And to be the companions around him, to
Mhm.
be concerned for his health, his safety, all of that.
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting this and overseeing it. And all the work you're going to have to do before anyone gets to see this too. This will
It's
go back
my
to you to
honor,
work with.
totally. Like I get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
absorb this information multiple times as we edit, and so this is
yeah,
great.
yeah.
And thanks so much to Buzz Connor and the Life and Message Committee at the Mayer Center for suggesting that we do this.
Right.
Also,
It's a
that we
great
have
thing
this.
you guys are doing by going in this direction.
Yeah, yeah, definitely want to be able to fulfill that part of our charter that talks about sharing
Yeah.
Baba's life and message, and this is definitely one of the wonderful ways that we can do it, and virtually too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thanks again, everybody, for being
Okay.
with us. Thank you, Ward and Naman, and we look forward to seeing you in session 13, the meeting at Hyderabad. So. Everyone everywhere, have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Thank you.